Buongiorno and welcome from your Roman consul Maria Cristina Saraceno to the course The Treasures of Rome. Today we're doing Module 7 and let's have a look at what expects us. We have to learn to ignore and it's story time. We are going to have an exceptional experience in a museum rather than shutting down. The problem in Rome is, ta-da! There's too much. If you want to take it all in, chances are you will give up after a few paintings. And this is not what you want. So how do you do it? The problem is when you wander around the museums of Rome, you're going to be overwhelmed and switch off. There's way too much. So today we're going to have a look at the solution. You need to find anchors to keep you grounded so that you can increase your enjoyment and make your experience unforgettable. You might enter a museum with a feeling of inadequacy because you do not master all the periods, the artists, the styles, and that is all too normal. No one can master all that Rome has got on offer for you. So, are you one of those people who run from masterpiece to masterpiece, not to miss anything important? Well, there's no test at the end, and you might not even enjoy those masterpieces. You have to find what you like best. And you can avoid making your visit a cerebral experience. So, for example, I know I should like the Triumph of Galatea. It's been painted by Raphael. It's a beautiful fresco. It's at Villa Farnesina. But you know what? I really do not like it. I do not like anything about it. And also right next to it, there is Lonely Polyphemus, and he just makes me sad. In fact, the whole of their story makes me sad. So the story goes that Galatea, one of the water nymphs, is in love with Achis. He's a son of Pan. But Polyphemus also loves Galatea and tries to woo her by playing the pipes, but without success. And he's so unhappy that he's crushed by jealousy for Galatea. And Polyphemus finds Achis and Galatea and kills Achis under a huge rock. And then the story goes that Galatea makes all the blood that rushes out from the rock into a stream. And you can find that in Sicily. You can actually go there. But it's grief all round. Galatea is not happy, her lover is dead. Achis is obviously not happy, he's dead. And Polyphemus is still not happy because he's not loved by Galatea. So, it's not my favorite story, it's not my favorite fresco, but it's still a masterpiece. So, if you think of going to a museum as a chore, which most of us do, in this module, you will learn to consider exploring a museum as a pleasurable experience, similar to watching a movie or going to a concert, because that's fun. And so I want you to consider going to a museum. You can find a whole stories in one single piece of art, or the story might be told in a number of pieces spread all around town. So pretend like you're going to the movies and you're looking for stories. For example, this is just one painting. I love it. It's Diana's hunting party at the Galleria Borghese. It's like reading a whole book. So in this module, I will show you lots of pictures. They might not be the best pictures, I took them all, but they will show you things through my eyes, and as you might want to see them. So if you look at this painting, what do you see? You see Diana, with a half moon over her head, and she is watching her friends hunting for birds. Lots of girls, the huntress. And they do catch the birds. There is one pigeon that is just crashing to the ground. Well, lots of other things are happening around them. The hunting dogs are ready for action. A deer is being brought back. One of the hunters is ready to go for a swim. It's action-packed, it's fun, and I love it. There's also two boys who are spying to the girl who's going for a swim, or on all of the pretty girls. And they are telling us not to make any noise. And two girls in the water attract our attention. And I love the interaction with these girls. I love the whole painting. It tells me lots of different stories at the same time. And this is how I want you to look at paintings or works of art in museums and in palaces. So how do you avoid switching off after the 100th piece of art you have looked at? You might be at the Vatican Museum or at the Capitoline Museum, in any other galleries. You're going to have a look at a lot of art. So your brain scans reality for patterns and stories, for familiar things, and for images that move you, or for the very odd. So this is what you have to use to anchor your visit so that your brain doesn't switch off. Anchor it to patterns, stories, familiar things, images that move you, and the very odd. For example, this is a picture with a reflection, but it shows you what I mean. We are in Palazzo Colonna. I will never forget this painting because it's really interesting, different to me. You can see the Colonna family rising from their graves on Judgment Day. And it's not like in Michael Jackson Thriller. They're not zombies. They're really nice people who are just rising from their tombs and joining Jesus and the Lord Father. So today we are looking at stories. It will be difficult for you, but I would like to try and encourage you to almost ignore the rest. Try and have a look for stories when you are in a museum. Even if it's a painting or a sculpture by a great artist, find the stories. Those will ground you, those will keep you interested, and you will keep going. You will come back and take more in the next time you are in Rome or you are in that particular museum. So the plan for today. In this module, we will explore two stories, just two stories that go on all around town. In the next module, we'll discover several shorter stories that you might see over and over again around Rome. And in the third module, we are going to practice story hunting. You are going to do the hunting. So stories, your brain loves them. We're going to have a look at myths. There's so many myths in the walls and the paintings and the sculptures in Rome. And we're going to have a look at the story of Rome. And we're going to have a look at plenty of stories from the Bible. Because people paying for this artwork, most of them were cardinals or popes. So you are going to find a lot of Bible stories. So the first stories we're going to go through today, it's the story of naughty Jupiter and his kids. Every museum in Rome holds illustrations of this story. It's like a treasure hunt. You can go in every museum and gallery and find a bit of this story. So what's the story? Well, Jupiter, you might know him as Zeus. So Greek version, Zeus, Roman version, Jupiter, and his beloved wife, Juno, are here seen at Villa Borghese. Juno, Greek version, Hera. So Zeus and Hera, or Jupiter and Juno, here you see them with Cupid at the Galleria Borghese. But the king of the gods does not excel in faithfulness. He was a really naughty man. God. Let's see some of his girlfriends and their kids. So Jupiter, who is actually the swan in this sculpture, and Leda, who is the pretty girl, had 3 kids. Helen of Troy, or Helen of Sparta, if you want to call her, when she was still the wife of Menelaus. Castor and Pollux, which we call the Dioscurs. So Zeus, Jupiter, transformed himself into a swan and went and courted Leda. This sculpture is from about 35 AD, and it is at the Galleria Borghese. Now, this is in a completely different part of town. It's in Trastevere. We are at Villa Farnesina, and you can see up in the ceiling there is Jupiter as the swan, and Leda, and two of their kids, the twins. And the twins were born from an egg, because the daddy was a swan. Now, these twins, the Dioscures, helped the Romans win the Battle of Lake Regillo against the Latins, and we were about at 500 before Christ. So, to thank the Dioscures for having won the Battle of Lake Regillo, the Romans built a temple to them in the Roman Forum, and you can go and have a look. It's it's closer to the Temple of the Vestals. Now, there is also statues of the Dioscures on the Quirinal Hill, right in front of the palace of the President of the Republic. So that's another fairly good spot to be in, but you have seen them before. Castor and Pollux are also on the Campidoglio, on Capitol Hill. If you go at the back of them and have a look on their heads, they've got funny hats. They're not hats at all. They're actually half of the egg they were born from. So if you are on the Capitol Hill, go and have a look at the back of the Dioscures and have a look at their egg they were born from on the top of their heads. Now, you can also see them in the stars, because the Dioscures, Castor and Pollux are now the constellation of Gemini. So if you were born under the star sign of Gemini, those were the two Gemini, the two twins. So were Juno and Leda enough to satisfy Jupiter? Of course not. So here we see Jupiter as the golden shower, and Danae, pretty girl, at the Galleria Borghese again. And who had they at the sun? The sun was Perseus, and you can see him here at the top of the painting on the horse, on the flying horse. He's rescuing Andromeda from the sea monster, and he's at the Galleria Borghese. He will end up marrying Andromeda, that's his future wife. And Perseus, of course, also killed Medusa. Here you can see Medusa with all the snakes on her head by Bernini at the Capitoline Museums. So Juno, by now, had enough of lovers for her husband and did not want any more. Yet Jupiter had another child out of wedlock with a girl called Alcmena. Juno was just furious. And what'd she do? Who was the new half-brother to Castor, Pollux, and Perseus? Well, meet baby Hercules. Here we are at the Capitoline Museums. And what is Hercules holding? There is one, and here is another one. Two snakes. Because Juno, sick and tired of her husband cheating on her, sent snakes to his crib to get rid of him. Not a very kind move, I'd say. So as you can see, walking around different museums, you can pick up many illustrations of the same story. Those illustrations will keep you grounded and allow you to be exposed to more masterpieces without overwhelm. If you see Hercules fighting with the snakes, baby Hercules fighting with the snakes, you know that's Juno, who is annoyed and sent snakes to Hercules' cribs. And you will feel at ease with the piece and move on to the next one. But you will feel like that museum is a little bit part of you now, because you know the stories. Now let's have a look at the myth of the creation of Rome. This is a really fun one as well. Another story that is told in every palace and museum of Rome. So watch out for illustrations. The story goes that Eris, the goddess of discord and fighting, leaves a golden apple for the most beautiful goddess at a wedding party. It was the wedding party of Thetis, the mother of Achilles. Now, Hera Greek, Juno, Roman, and Athena, or Minerva, and Aphrodite, Venus, all claim the apple. So if you're talking Greek goddesses, then they were Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. If you're talking Roman goddesses, they were Juno, Minerva, and Venus, but exactly the same. So Zeus, Jupiter, is too smart to risk to anger two of the three goddesses, because whoever he chooses, the other two will be upset. So he passes on the task to the most handsome man, Paris, so he can get in trouble. Very smart. So here you find at Palazzo Braschi one of the illustrations of the Judgment of Paris. Paris and the beautiful goddesses. So each goddess, they were not very fair either. They all try to bribe Paris. So Juno tries to bribe him with wealth, power, and glory. Minerva tries to bribe him with wisdom and invincibility in war. Whereas Venus tries to bribe him with the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. Here it's a ceiling at Palazzo Braschi, still Paris with the three goddesses and the apple. He's giving it to one. Who's that? Which one would you have chosen? Power, wisdom, or love? Paris chooses love and Venus. And so Venus helps Paris kidnap the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen of Sparta, wife of King Menelaus. And guess what? This is the spark that starts the War of Troy. Putting together an army, the Achaeans, meaning the Greeks, need Achilles. But Achilles has been hidden by his mother, Thetis, and he has been forced to dress as a girl. So what happens? How can they figure out who he is? He's dressed as a girl. Well, Ulysses unmasks Achilles because he goes to court and pretends to sell beautiful silks. But he actually hides weapons among the silks, and the only girl, let's say, interested in the weapons was obviously Achilles. And so, with this very easy and simple trick, Ulysses unmasks Achilles and takes him on to battle, to Troy. You'll know how the Trojan War finishes with the Trojan horse, and Troy loses the war. So one of the heroes, Aeneas, who is the son of Venus, leaves the city, and you can find him here. Aeneas flees the city carrying his father Anchises and his son Ascanius. His wife actually dies during the escape. Aeneas has many adventures, and he also stops in Carthage and falls in love with the Queen of Carthage, Dido. But Zeus, Jupiter, wants him to leave to Italy, where he is to create a whole new kingdom. And so he's forced to go, and he's forced to leave his beloved Dido behind, Dido. And when Aeneas abandons Dido, and you can see it in the backgrounds, the sail ships are sailing away, what does the Queen of Carthage do? She was so in love with him that when she sees him leave, she kills herself. Here we are at the Galleria Spada, where you can find Dido killing herself. Aeneas creates the city of Lavinio, not far from Rome, just a little bit south of it. And his son, Ascanius, creates the city-state of Alba Longa. Alba Longa is very important. Now, can you still go to Lavinio? Yes, you can. It's now by the beach. The old Lavinio is 6 kilometers inland from the beach. Can you still go to Alba Longa? Not at all, because it has been destroyed by Rome during his wars of conquest. Now, the king of Alba Longa, Numitor, after a few generations from Ascanius, was dethroned by his brother Amulius. Very naughty Amulius. Amulius killed all the male heirs and forced Rhea Silvia, the only daughter of Numitor, to become a Vestal priestess. That meant that she had to take vows of chastity, so she could not have had any kids. But clearly, Mars, the god of war, fell in love with Rhea Silvia, descendant of Aeneas and hence of Venus. Can you guess who the children of Mars and Rhea Silvia were? Ta-da! Romulus and Remus, here by Rubens at the Capitoline Museums. So in this painting you can see the two twins. You can see Rhea Silvia in the background on the left, and you can see the river Tiber, the god of the river Tiber, Tiberinus, right next to Rhea Silvia, because he saved them in a way. And you can see the shepherd who found them and raised them. Now, what is the most important part in this whole story? Rome was created by the sons of Mars and the great-great-grandkids of Venus, which, said in another way, means that Rome can trace its origins back to the gods Venus and Mars. So this story was a part of Augustus's imperial propaganda and was partly crafted by the poet Virgil, who wrote the trials and tribulations of Aeneas in the book called the Aeneid. Now, in its early days, Rome attracted shepherds and rascals, but no women. What was the solution? You know that. The rape of the Sabine women. This painting is here by Sodoma at Palazzo Barberini. Rome grew from strength to strength. First it was a monarchy, then when the population was mature enough, it became a republic, and then later still, with a territory that was too vast, a strong man was needed at the helm. So Julius Caesar was larger than life, and so was his queen, Cleopatra. And when Julius Caesar was stabbed in Rome, what happened to Cleopatra? She met Marcus Antonius, one of the generals of Caesar, one of the most important political figures of the time, with Caesar's adopted son, Octavian, who later became Augustus. Now, she wanted to impress him with the most expensive banquet. They had a bet, Cleopatra and Marcus Antonius, and Cleopatra just took a huge, magnificent pearl earring worth thousands and thousands of sesterces and melted it in vinegar and drank it. This painting is by Francesco Trevisani, and you can find it at the Galleria Spada. And you can see Cleopatra drowning her beautiful, massive pearl in vinegar to melt it and then drink it. Now, the judges of the bet was Plancus, and he stopped Cleopatra from melting the second earring. She had won. After Cleopatra's death, the huge pearl that was the second earring was taken to Rome and was cut in two and made into two earrings for the statue of Venus in the Pantheon. Now, after Cleopatra and Mark Antonius fell in love, they also had 3 children, but then their fortune turned, and against Octavian Augustus, who at the time was just Octavian, they were defeated at the Battle of Actium in 31 before Christ. So then, in 30 before Christ, they both commit suicide. Here you can see Marcus Antonius dying, and then Cleopatra committing suicide as well. All very sad at the Galleria Spada. The paintings of Marcus Antonius are interesting also because after his death he was issued a damnatio memoriae by the Senate. So you are not going to find in the ancient Roman museums any statues of him because his memory was cancelled from ancient Rome. So it's interesting to see a different period painting depicting Marcus Antonius. So let's recap what we have had a look today. In this module, we have seen how one single story can be illustrated all around the museums of Rome and how it can keep you grounded. When you walk around a museum with endless stimuli, your brain will lighten up when you spot an illustration of a story you know. So these anchors can help us to focus and not to be overwhelmed when confronted with hundreds and hundreds of paintings, sculptures, mosaics. In the next module, we are going to discover more stories and more artists. So try not to limit your experience to the top 10 artists, because even those you've never heard of before can give you infinite joy. In the module after next, we are going to practice what we've discovered in a real treasure hunt, so that when you are in Rome, you will know exactly what to do when you're swamped with so many images. Until next module, from your Roman consul, Maria Cristina Saraceno, arrivederci. Ciao ciao.